So I thought I'd talk this morning or this afternoon or this evening, according to when you're listening to this, about magic or words of power, or Heka, the word Heka, which comes from Hermes Trismegistus, who was the Egyptian god. Heka actually is translated as magic, and in Egyptology the word meant words of power. It says that our words of power are magic. They create change in the world. I read that recently in a book called Imagining Your Reality. It was a really, really great book on hermetics, on Hermes Trismegistus, on Egyptian can't even say it, hieroglyphy, I think it's called, or hieroglyphics. It's a very, very, very powerful book about this 6,000-year-old theology, this 6,000-year-old religion, and religion in the sense of realigning the whole concept of their faith, and the whole concept of hermetics was as within, as without. Everything was about aligning to our unique signature. Everything was about aligning to our source, or aligning to God, or aligning to righteousness. And it talks about the fact that when we speak, our words have power. And then when you read that, you think, well, of course, that's so obvious. That's what we do. We create realities with our thinking, our speaking, our doing. And when those three are in alignment, when what we think and what we say and what we do are in alignment, we can create prolifically. Heka means, the word Ka means God, and Heka means to raise God. It means to evoke God with our words. When I read this, it made me realise why words are powerful, because they're magic. Why words can heal, because they have magic, because it's sound, it's vibration, it affects other people. Everybody's made up of vibration, and we can affect their vibration with our vibration. So if you listen to this podcast, and it has a positive effect on you, and you feel inspired, my words have affected your vibration and inspired you. They've aligned you. So my words have had a magic on you. If you're listening to this and you hear a swear word, or you look at my ear or my nose, or you're offended by something I say, it's still the same. It's magic. It's words of power. Especially because my words are aligned. They're coming from a place of love. My job is to serve, and so I'm trying to put stuff out in the world from my own experience that serves. I know, because a couple of my friends have said, I've given your podcasts to other people, and they were slightly jarred by it. They didn't like it. They were offended by the language. And I said, oh, that's really good. That's really good, because it means it has an effect. And if it inspires you, that's good as well. It's had an effect. But just because it offends people doesn't mean it hasn't had a good effect. It's created a shock. If it's created a shock and they've immediately judged me on how I look, or on the fact that I've used a swear word, then it introduces them to a false identity, because judgment and criticism is just coming from a false identity. It's just a corresponding reaction to something that's already in you. In psychology, they call it reaction formation. We attack in others what we don't like in ourselves. So coming back to the word Heka, and coming back to the use of words as words of power, as magic, it makes you realise how important it is to say the right words at the right time, in the right order, and for the right reason. The words need to be aligned. When I was younger and clumsy and ignorant and didn't have a very strong will, I couldn't control my words of power. I would just say the wrong things at the wrong time, in the wrong order, for the wrong reasons, and damage people. I can't tell you how many people I damaged with my words, and I'm deeply ashamed of that. But I've learned from that. Buckminster Fuller, who was one of the greatest inventors of his generation, if you get a chance to look at, he did a great book called The Critical Path. He did a lot of books. Buckminster Fuller had a breakdown at the age of 40. His daughter had died, and he wrongly blamed himself. I think she had polio and she died anyway, but he was filled with guilt and he had a breakdown, and he didn't speak for a year. He said, I didn't speak for a year because I understood suddenly the power of words. He understood how powerful words were. He understood that words were magic, Heka, that when we speak, we invoke God, we invoke this divine energy. And if it comes to a negative cognition or a negative perception, that energy is going to damage, it's going to hurt. So in my early days, I used thinking and speaking and doing to damage people from a wrong perspective. I had no control really of what I was doing. I'd got a very, very damaged cognition, a very damaged perception, because I was abused when I was 12 and implicitly told that the world couldn't be trusted. I went out and built up an armour and built up the ability to defend myself against this world that I thought was hugely dangerous. No one can be trusted. It's even the people you love, especially the people you love. That's what I believed. So I went out, I built up this bodily armour, and I built up this war paint, and I put this face armour on, and I developed skills so I could kill people. I can kill in 60 languages. When I let these go to death sentence, these were dangerous because I didn't know who was using them. So I built this up because I had a faulty perception. I was still using the same energy. I was still pulling from a divine place. It was just coming through a very damaged perception. My doors of perception were very dark. So I went out into the world, and using my words of power, I hugely damaged people. Hugely damaged people. Words are very, very powerful. These days, because I understand who I am, I understand who I'm not, I understand the power of words, I understand the magic of words, I make sure that I use my words at the right time, in the right order, and for the right reason, and from the right alignment. That's what I do, because I have self-control. I'm not saying that I don't make mistakes. I make mistakes every day, but I remedy them very quickly. It's rare that my mistakes last longer than a few seconds. I catch them. If they've engaged me and I act on them, I catch them and I retract it and I apologise, and I just say, I apologise, that wasn't me. That wasn't me speaking. That's a separate part of me, and I'm going to work on that. I've seen it with Sharon. I've seen my wife Sharon say to me, started to say something, and then she stopped herself and she said, I'm really sorry, Geoff, that's not me. That wasn't me. Just take no notice of what I was saying. That was just some fear coming out. I'm working with a friend at the moment on my sovereignty course. This is obviously what we do on the sovereignty course. This is how we work. We work with techniques based around this. And I'm working with a friend at the moment, a very perceptive lad, and he's a big businessman. And he said he was in a meeting and somebody said, this is what we're going to do now. And he said, for fuck's sake, I can't believe that we are here again doing this, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know where that came from. Please forgive me. That wasn't me. Let me retract that. He was able, because of the information and the technique, he was able to catch it just as it came out and recognise that it was an old shadow, it was an old insecurity. Very, very powerful. So when we use words of power, we can use words of power to heal people, or we can use words of power to harm people. I have no interest in harm. I have no interest at all in harming people. I have no interest in harming people who want to harm me. I have no interest in harming people who want to harm me. I have no interest in harming anybody, because I recognise that when I invoke words of power, if I use negative words of power, they've got to be processed through me. So if I use my negative words of power on you, I've used them on me, because obviously I've had to process them, they've had to come through me. So if I have to create acid in my body to spit at you, that acid's still in my body. If I create poison to throw at you, that poison has to be processed through me. So if I'm poisonous to you, I'm poisonous to me. It makes no sense. There's no intelligence in being negative and aggressive towards other people. Because everything you do to everybody else, you do to yourself. Which is great, because it means that when you use your positive words of power, that love and that energy and that has to be processed through you. And when you put that to other people and deliver it to other people, those words of power work on you. What I say to you, I say to me. It works through me. Actually is processed in me. So if I'm giving you goodness, that goodness is coming through me. So it is in my best interests. It's profitable to use very powerful, positive words to people, whoever wants them, whoever puts themselves in front of me and asks, I will share my words of power with them, because it's good for me. And that's why I do lots of talks, that's why I go out and do lots of talks, that's why I do these podcasts. Everybody says, oh, you know, this is a lost leader, you're putting this out because it's good for business. I put this out because it's good for me. When I talk to you and deliver my words of power, I'm talking to me. They've got to be processed through me. Any goodness I give you comes through me. That's why the highest level of man's development, the 7th stage of development, is selfless service. Doing things from a selfless place. Because what we deliver to other people from a selfless place, we deliver to ourselves. What I give to you, I give to me. It's processed through me. My words of power work on you, they work on me. Same as when you go out and about now. If you're sitting down and you're talking to people and you're being negative and you're being critical and you're being judgmental and you're being angry, etc., etc., it's just a foolish thing to do, because it's processed through you, you're doing it to you. And of course then there's the ordinary expected reciprocal response, which is what you put out into the world comes back. And it does, but literally, you know, it comes back the moment you say it. It's not like you have to. It's not like there's a gestation period between cause and effect. When there's a cause, there's an immediate effect, because it's in the body. So if I'm angry, that anger towards you is in me. It's in my body. It's caustic. It's literally caustic to my body. The adrenals kick off, cortisol's released, and cortisol that's not behaviourally used has a caustic effect on the smooth internal muscles. And the fatty it scratches the arteries in the veins, and it attacks neurotransmitters in the brain. And the fatty acids that are released when we're angry and we've got adrenaline get caught up in these little scratches in the arteries, which causes our angina and illness. And you know, our smooth internal muscles like the heart, the lungs, the intestines, the bladder, they're all, you know, cortisol is an acid to them. So when we are angry or vengeful or jealous or envious, and you know, if we engage those feelings and we express those feelings, not only are we wasting our own energy, because you can waste a day's energy just expressing a negative emotion, we're also creating a caustic for our own body. So it makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. It's profitable to be kind, and we have the potential, if we can identify the chief thinker, our authentic self, we have the potential to be infinitely kind to everybody that comes before us. Every opportunity is an opportunity to be kind. Every opportunity is an opportunity to find compassion. Every opportunity is an opportunity to be profitable to yourself, because what you give out to others, and what you think about others, and what you say about others, and what you do with others is what you do to yourself. That's why when one of my friends was inappropriate with my family, I said to him, I can't believe you've done this to yourself. And he had no concept of what that meant. But what I was saying was that, you know, what you do to others is what you do to yourself. I know it because I've lived it. You know, I didn't go through 10 years of violence without inflicting massive violence on myself. I was more violent to myself than to anybody else. So I'm excited about that concept of recognizing that words have powerful magic potential, and all I want to do with my words is heal people with them, inspire people with them, you know, give people aspiration, give people direction, give people instruction, and use those words of power as a balm, as a healing agent. We've all got the potential to do that, but only if we recognise that, you know, healing has to come from an aligned, absolute, at-one-ment. It has to come from an aligned place. We can't, you know, we can't have a kind thought today because our personality recognises that's right, and then tomorrow we let another voice come in that slams the door on our secretary, or, you know, slags somebody off on the internet, or cuts somebody up in the car. We need to know who we are. between us and these separate personalities, as I said in one of the other podcasts, there are buffers, and these buffers need to be gradually broke down so that we can dissolve these old parts of ourselves and bring them into alignment, so that we're not collective. We're not a collective, we are a one. So it's just exciting now to go out and think, okay, I'm going to have the opportunity every single day to be kind to myself by being kind to other people, to use my words of power on myself by using my words of power on other people, by developing self-control and only using the words at the right time, in the right order, and from the right alignment. So remember, when you use words, you evoke God. When you use words, you evoke essence, you evoke great power, and that power can heal or harm. That's your choice. It's not a lottery.